to Lex Reads. In today's video, I wanted to talk about some books that were published by Black authors this year that kind of went under the radar. You don't see a lot of people talking about them. They weren't heavily publicized. And also, these are some books that I do want to read. Now, you guys know I'm all about reading my backlist books. I don't like to read books when everyone else is reading them. But this year, I have to say, I have read a lot of books that were published like this year or either last year and really did enjoy it. But I have noticed that I have been increasing, reading books that were published within like a year or two. So yeah, let's just get started. Okay, so the first book that I want to talk about is a collection of short stories, and that is Diane Oliver. And the collection is Neighbors and Other Stories. Now, I have been aware of Diane Oliver for about maybe 2 years, and some of her stories were published in like literary magazines. I became aware of her when I picked up an anthology collection. You guys know how much I love anthologies, and they had the story called Neighbors. And just the gist of it, it's about a young Black boy. He is going to be the first, and like the neighbors around him, they're going to be the first to integrate at school. Children in the neighborhood, they're going to be with each other. But then they end up backing out and they're not sending, their children to that school, and he's going to be only one. And it's the day and it's the night before he's going to school, and like, the family is just so worried. The mom's like, my baby go be alone and I'm just kind of scared. And then, the dad's like, well, he's going to be the first. They said he's gonna be okay. Really enjoyed the story. It's a very short story. Okay, next is a historical fiction novel that I just finished finally, and it is called American Daughters by Piper Hughley. You guys know I've been talking about this for the past, oh my goodness, months. This was one of my anticipated reads for this year. I believe this book came out in April. I just finished it, and the reason why, it wasn't boring, but I kept on getting distracted with other books. But I finally finished it, and it was so good. This is a historical fiction. It was by Alice Roosevelt and Portia Washington, the daughters of Booker T. Washington and Theodore Roosevelt. And they had a friendship that not a lot of people knew about. It begins when they're young, about 17, 18, all the way until, they're older women. And it was so good. You learn so much about these women, and the fact that you do get historical, aspects, but then you get the fictional aspects, because there's not a lot of information about their friendship. I think the author, Piper, she said she found one newspaper clipping or something like that. I think when either Portia died, because she died before Alice, was something quoted by Alice in the newspaper about her death. I did not know that Alice Roosevelt was a wild thing, okay? She would one scene, and they said she really did do this in real life, where she was kind of like a wild, like she was a wild child, okay? And she almost sometimes was banished from the White House, and her stepmother really wasn't feeling her. And she had a pet snake, but she was smoking, in the White House. They said, you can't smoke in the White House. Why this girl went all the way up to the roof and started smoking? She did stuff like that. We learned that her husband is really not her child's father. She was messing around with a senator, and that's really true. I mean, again, she did up some stuff, okay? Did practical jokes, and she tore up that White House. But this, you guys, I highly recommend, because it was really good. Next is Blessings. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this person's name, because I know I'm going to butcher it. It is a Nigerian author, and this is the cover. The reason why I got this, first of all, you see the blurb by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Love her. It simply says beautiful. And you guys know how much I love African literature. If you're ever in a reading slump, or you just want to read a good story, you need to pick up African literature, because they are fantastic storytellers. And with this book in particular, it is about a young man. His father sees him kissing a boy, and he goes wild. He can't take that. So he sends the young man to a boarding school to try to fix him. But the boarding school is an all-boys boarding school. That doesn't make sense. But in the boarding school, I believe there's going to be some harsh tactics, basically to cleanse them. And then you're also going to see how in Nigeria they treat homosexuality, and because it's not accepted at all. I mean, some instances they will kill the person, unfortunately. But I cannot wait to read this. And again, I love the cover. And I don't see a lot of people talking about this book. I like to, when I am, researching a book, while I'm reading it and after I'm reading it, I like to, watch some interviews or some reviews, especially interviews of the author talking about the book. And usually there's, spoiler free. But I did see one with the author, and when I come close to reading this book, I will watch it just to see the inspiration, why he wrote it, and things like that. Okay, next, I'm going to talk about books that I don't own that was published this year. So the first is a YA novel, and it just came out in June. And it is called The Color of a Lie by Kim Johnson. And this sounds interesting because it's about passing. It says, in 1955, a black family passes for white and moves to a white-only town in the suburbs. Caught in between two worlds, a teen boy puts his family at risk as he uncovers racist secrets about his suburb. A new social justice thriller from the acclaimed author of This Is My America, Calvin knows how to pass for white. He's done it plenty of times before. For his friends in Chicago when they wanted food but wasn't allowed in a restaurant. For work when he and his dad travels. After a tragedy in Chicago forces the family to flee, they resettle in an all-white suburb town in search of a better life. Passing starts to feel even more suffocating and dangerous than they could have imagined. That sounds so good. First of all, having the whole family pass, that's what got me, because I've only read stories where like one person passed. Then it's from a male point of view, and then it's also from a young male's point of view. I've seen This Is My America. I've never read any of these books. You guys know YA is kind of, I have to be in a mood for YA, and that's not a genre that I just gravitate towards, but I do sometimes keep my eyes, on it. But it sounds really good, and I love the cover. Next is another historical fiction, and it is called In a League of Her Own, and this is by Kaya Wooderson. Now, I have another book by her that I haven't read. It's another historical fiction. It's somewhere over here. But that's what the book is called. From the author of Sisters in Arms comes the incredible untold story of Effie Manley, a black businesswoman in the male-dominated baseball industry, and currently the only woman inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Unforgettable and inspiration story about a woman with a dream who wound up with a baseball team. That sounds really good. First of all, I never heard of this lady, which I'm really excited about because it's another person that I'm going to be able to learn about. And then I just love historical fiction. That has become one of my favorite genres. That's become one of my favorite genres. I love it so much. So, yes. Next is Dysfunctional Junction. And this is by Robin W. Pearson. And it says, when three women receive an unexpected phone call that leaves them railing, they have no choice but to reckon with a lifetime of memories they long tried to bury. Only in facing the past will they find their path forward. Frances May Livingston, destructive history makes her hold her husband and 4 children even closer, but she's losing bits of herself. Ella Bella didn't have trouble kicking the East Northern Carolina dust off her feet. The tough part was replanting herself in family soil. Dr. Charlotte Winters has built a career around helping others sort through their emotional baggage. She also spends a lifetime refusing to unpack her own. This Southern family drama about sisterhood from award-winning author Robin W. Pearson. This is up my alley because I like books that have 3 POVs. I feel like you get like 3 stories in one. Then y'all know I like that drama. Secrets and Lies, love that. And lastly, All We Were Promised by Ashton Lattimore. This is a slavery themed novel. Okay, it says a housemate with a dangerous family secret conspires with a wealthy young abolitionist to help an enslaved girl escape pre-Civil War Philadelphia. The rebel, the socialite, and the fugitive. Together they will risk everything for one another in this story of friendship, deception, and women crossing barriers in the name of freedom. After all, Philadelphia is supposed to be the birthplace of American liberty. Instead, she's locked away, paying playing servant to her white passing father as they both attempt to hide their identities from slave catchers who would destroy their new lives. Longing to break away, Charlotte befriends Neil, a budding abolitionist from one of the Philadelphia's wealthiest black families. Just as Charlotte starts to envision a future, a familiar face from her past reappears. Her friend from White Oaks has been brought to the city by the plantation's mistress, and she's desperate to escape. But as Charlotte and Neil conspire to rescue her in a city engulfed by race riots and attacks on abolitionists, they soon discover that fighting for her freedom may cost them their own. That sounds so good. I love slavery themed novels. I know it can be hard for some people to read them because it's such brutality, and then I also like stories when it comes to people passing. And I think the reason why I like that, it just intrigues me and it baffles me that you can go on living a life of like a lie, but then also the fact that you have in the back, you're always thinking about if you get caught or if some people think they know. Again, I just, for some reason, that intrigues me that you can live a life like that. And I do understand why some people pass, you know what I mean? Because it can be, an inconvenience sometime of being black, especially during those times. But again, I just like stories like that. But this sounds really good. It doesn't sound like the typical like slavery theme book. That's one reason why I do want to read this. So yeah, guys, that is it when it comes to new releases by black authors. Y'all know I like the hidden gem books, even when it is newly released. It's just something about them. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more black books. Bye.